We heard earlier from Ann Wood, an online seller who's not for this coming on stream out of Dallas. We've got a congressman calling in right now from Washington who may be for it. Congressman Peter Welch represents Vermont's at-large congressional district. Congressman Welch, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Tom. It's good to be with you.
We're hearing arguments for and against. Where do you come down, Congressman?
Well, we need this. There's three things. Number one, our downtown retail brick-and-mortar establishments are really struggling, and they have a competitive disadvantage. A lot of folks go in with their iPhones. They use the brick-and-mortar place as a showroom, and then literally try to make the retailer eat the sales tax in order to make the purchase.
Yep.
And they're struggling. So we've got conservative Republicans like Steve Womack, who used to be a mayor, and is saying that we've got to help our retailers have a fighting chance. And a level playing field is the issue. It's not tilting it one way or the other.
What about my guest Steve Del Bianco is saying that, look, this is going to advantage big box stores on the web the same way that they, ate Main Street's lunch 20, 30 years ago. This is going to do the same thing to the web. Are you concerned about that, Congressman Welch?
Well, I'm not. I mean, there's got to be competitive fairness. By the way, start with the proposition that this sales tax is actually an obligation that the consumer has, whether you purchase online or not. In a state that has a sales tax or a community, that is supposed to be paid by the consumer as a, quote, use tax in the event it's not collected. Now, none of us do that, and it's not collectible. That's why the point of sale, that earlier caller had a very, very good point. And it's not a new tax, it's a due tax. And there's really three principles here. I think, one, you have to have a level playing field. If people are supposed to pay it, then whether you purchase online or at brick and mortar, the same rules should apply. That's level playing field. Number two, there's state rights issues. It's a very conservative proposition that if a state or a community has taxing authority and they assess a sales tax, the Congress should not interfere with that. And in effect, by allowing this to apply to the Internet sales, we're respecting state rights.
But the Supreme Court said in 92, stay out of it.
What they said is that, and we are out of it. What we're doing in this legislation is allowing the states to collect it. I mean, there's no invasion by the federal government in this legislation of the taxing authority of a local municipality or a state. And then the third thing is that a lot of the states, and the reason why conservative governors like Governor McDowell of Virginia are supporting this, is that they're getting squeezed by the federal government. We're cutting back on revenues that we're sending to states and communities. We should not be interfering in the ability of states and communities to collect on taxes that they assess and decide in their local legislature.
Congressman, respond to this. Here's a listener online. NJ says, great. More regressive sales taxes for the lowly masses while corporations and the rich get tax breaks and subsidies and set up offshore shell operations to avoid tax liability entirely. You're just bringing the regressive hammer down on the little guy, NJ is saying.
Yeah, well, I agree with his broad point about how distorted our tax system is, and that if Congress were doing its job, we'd make it much more fair and frankly, more progressive. So I agree with that point. But on the other hand, if you have a sales tax that provides services like for firefighters, by the way, your earlier caller was a firefighter. Our firefighters in Vermont support this because they know they need local revenues in order to do the job in the local community that we need them to do. But that point, yes, we need comprehensive tax reform, but we also need a level playing field. So if a sales tax is being assessed and you're purchasing a pair of sneakers in your brick-and-mortar store or online, that tax should be paid, just a level playing field.
Congressman Peter Welch, at-large rep for Vermont. Thanks very much for calling, Congressman. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
I'm Tom Ashbrook. This is On Point.
Support for On Point